All right, hello guys. So in today's video, I'll be giving you top mistakes that you need to avoid when preparing for your next interview. I did not think this was a big issue, but for those that are just now entering the job market, smallest to the biggest mistakes, I'll give you a list of items that will help you increase your chances of advancing in late stages of your interview rounds, as well as giving you a comprehensive understanding of what hiring managers oftentimes pay attention to. Oftentimes when you're a new entry-level candidate, these small mistakes, you don't really necessarily think about them. You oftentimes believe you've done a great job, but hiring managers are actually paying attention to these small details. So we'll dive into it and hopefully this can be helpful. All right, so number one on the list is showing up late to an interview, right? This only indicates to the hiring manager that you don't know how to manage time. So my suggestion to you would be to prep the night before, right? You have the company's address. Look at the route that you're taking, how long it will take for you to arrive to that destination. And as well as not looking at one route, but look at multiple alternative routes in case one don't work out, as you have to prepare for traffic. Even if you arrive early, it's fine. You can sit there, you can use the bathroom, you can kind of get a glimpse at what type of environment you have applied into, right? So number one on the list is showing up late. At the same time, I also want you to be mindful. Although you showed up early to the interview, which is a great sign, you don't want to show up too early. At max, show up 10 minutes before the interview, because oftentimes hiring managers have other interviews that are lined up and they have to prepare for them. So they might end the interview prior to yours 10 minutes or 20 minutes prior to help them look at your resume and prepare for it. So you don't want to distract them by, the receptionist saying, hey, your next appointment is already here. And they're scrambling around trying to, organize themselves. So show up 10 minutes before the interview. Next on the list is dressing inappropriately, right? Before the interview, you oftentimes would receive an email that would tell you where to go, what the dress code is, what to expect, right? And if you don't receive that, it's always a great idea to ask the recruiter, what is the dress code for the interview? Because some companies, like if it's a small startup, they're more relaxed on dress code. Listen, don't get me wrong, every company is different. Some companies don't care much about the dress code, more about what your capabilities are. But it's always good to be professional, always good to dress up. Doesn't mean you wear a suit and tie, but look professional. Button down, or if you're a female, wear a nice dress or a blazer to the interview. Show that you came prepared. You did not just wake up and just showed up, right? Show you care, show that you can be very professional, and you respect the values of the company by the way you represent yourself. So next up would be lack of research and not knowing anything about the company. This is something that I've encountered over and over again. When you apply to a job, you must understand what the company is doing. What type of product are they building? How many people are employed at that organization? These are all questions and research you need to do before attending an interview. You oftentimes will hear or them asking you, what do you know about us? What interests you about our company? These are questions to see how much research you've done in regards to understanding the company. So it is very crucial for you to do your research and understand every single company you're applying for. Even if you're applying to 100 companies, let's say you get one response, right? Where the interviewer is asking you to come in and get a bit more information about you. So once you get that email, start doing your research about the company. Start understanding what their product lines are. Understanding the organization overall view. All right, so next up would be giving false information on your resume. Basically lying, right? You want to avoid listing things that are not real on your resume. As hiring managers, as well as recruiter, we do back channel on resumes. We go online, we look at the organization you work for. We might have connections in those organizations. So always be truthful in terms of your title, in terms of your responsibilities, in terms of, how many years you spent there, right? These are all important aspects because the minute you lie, it shows that you cannot be trusted. So always be honest on your resume. Yes, there might be words that are transferable in terms of how you address them are very important in a way that you're not misleading the hiring manager as well as the recruiter. So always be honest. All right, so next up would be using your cell phone or having your cell phone on during interviews. At this point, when you attend an interview, there's no reason for you to have your phone on you. You should turn it off and put it in your pocket. All right, next up would be bad-mouthing your former employer, right? This only indicates that you might be a hard person to work with. If you're leaving a situation where, it was not very pleasing, it's always great to just explain your duties and responsibilities, but don't dive into the negative aspect of your experience. All right, next would be eating during the interview or drinking. Now, I don't have a problem with you bringing a water bottle to the interview process, as you will talk a lot, right? You will probably be dehydrated. So having a bottle of water would not hurt, but having anything outside of that, as far as food, is a bit unprofessional. So, all right, so next up would be discussing personal topics, right? Oftentimes, during the interview process, somehow, the topic around family or friends or activities might come up. Basically, keep that very short. Do not go too deep into details and rambling off and being off topic in terms of the interview. So you want to stay on top of the interview process. Allow the hiring managers to ask you as many questions as possible as you have limited time. So avoid using personal topics. All right, so next up would be talking too much during the interview process. The conversation should be equal from the hiring managers to you as an applicant. Be direct, right? You're given list of questions. Answer the questions and avoid rambling around and losing the attention of the hiring manager, right? You want to be direct and answer the question as best as possible. And if there's anything that needs to be clarified, the hiring manager will most likely ask you a follow-up question. So the conversation should be equal. All right, so next up would be hygiene. This pretty much piggybacks on, dressing appropriately, right? When you show up to an interview, make sure you have great hygiene. And what I mean by that is, let's say before the interview you had coffee, right? You probably still smell like coffee. Grab some peppermint along the way, or grab a piece of gum to reduce the smell of the coffee, as well as making sure that you have deodorant on. As sometimes you might be nervous interviewing and you might sweat a lot. That was my case, so I'm just giving that. Regardless, my whole point of this is make sure you smell good, make sure you look good, and you'll be fine. All right, so next up would be having a bad body language as well as being rude. When you're in the interview process, you want to make sure that you're showing good eye contact, you're smiling, as well as being engaged. So basically, treat everyone you meet in the interview process with respect as well as kindness. All right, and finally, the last one is not asking questions after the interview, as well as during the interview if there's something that needs to be clarified. It always worries me as a recruiter to pre-screen a candidate and they don't have any questions towards the end. To me, it's like, you know everything about our company then. You know everything about our product. You have to have some type of questions in regards to the position you're applying for, especially after you interview with the hiring managers. These are things that you can actually do prior to attending the interview. Have some questions that you listed that you want clarification on, so the hiring manager can definitely see you're very interested. You are very curious about what is being built and where the organization is heading. So have list of questions. All right, so those are the top mistakes that I would say you need to avoid during the interview process. Again, there might be things that I've missed, but this is the best I can do.